Video, I'm going to talk to you about the number one biggest problem, misconception, and myth that I see when it comes to kids with executive function challenges. What is up, parents and teachers? My name is Seth Perler. I wear a lot of hats in the executive function, ADHD, neurodiversity, 2E worlds. And I have a site called SethPerler.com where you can get freebies and sign up for updates and stuff and such. In this video, I'm going to talk about this giant problem. So I like to conceptualize things into one, as simply as possible. And in this case, there's one concept that I do think is the most important concept when it comes to parents, teachers, and anybody who's trying to help these kids, that there's this big misunderstanding. And that misunderstanding is the misunderstanding of the can't versus the won't. Here's what I mean by that. So when we misunderstand something, we use the wrong interventions to solve a problem. When we understand something well, we can problem solve much more effectively. This can be in any area. It can be having to do with changing my guitar strings, plants, or working with kids with executive function challenges. Now, a lot of kids who have executive function challenges, whether they're on the autism spectrum, diagnosed with ADHD, dyslexia, dyscalculia, they've experienced trauma, any sorts of executive function challenges that these kids experience, they're often misunderstood. Misunderstood. And this is very painful for these kids. They often don't know how to articulate it. They often don't even know they're being misunderstood because they don't understand executive function. They're misunderstood. What does that mean? The can't versus the won't. A lot of times these kids, they're perceived as they won't do things. They're being willful. They're being defiant. They don't try hard enough. They just need to work harder. They just need to motivate themselves. They just need to prioritize better. They just need to choose to just try and focus more. They just need to make themselves pay attention. These all assume that this is a matter of will, that they're being willful, that they won't. They will not do what they're being asked to do. They will not comply. They will not whatever. Instead, we want to imagine that it's a can't. When we perceive that somebody can't do something, we treat them very differently. I honestly can't see the screen very much, but I don't like the reflection of my glasses. But I can't just try harder to see better. I need to put these on, which I'm not going to do right now. I can't just motivate myself to see better. Just pay attention. Just squint harder. It doesn't matter how hard I try. I do not have the ability to do that. When people can't do something, they can't do it. So what often happens is there's a lot of complications around this issue. One is that, especially as kids get to be young adults and they turn 11, 12, 13 and older, they become more resistant. They're like, get off my back, mom, dad. I got this. Why don't you trust me? I can handle this. I can do it myself. And they can't because they don't have the skill sets to do that. So that's a complication, is the pushback and the resistance. Another complication is that when we see this as a can't and we intervene in an inappropriate way, it doesn't get the result we want. Now, we might get the result where the kid does the thing or tries to do the thing or tries to fake that they did the thing just to get you off their back or what have you, but they're not building the executive function skills that they need to independently be able to do this stuff. So, and we often do that through coercion, arguments, homework battles, punishment, rewards, the promise of rewards, all these sorts of lectures, logic, reason, all of these sorts of things. We're trying to get them to be motivated, to get them to do whatever the thing is, but it's not giving them the skills. Then there's the complication of a lot of people say, well, I've seen them do it before. I know they can do it. Yeah, but that doesn't take into consideration the entire context of what's going on with executive function in that moment. So they think they're being willful, but they're really not. And then there's the complication of that. A lot of times, the more these kids have experienced so many daunting experiences where they feel like a failure, they feel like no one sees how hard they tried, they feel like nobody notices what they do right, and that there's so much focus on the negative, these kids, they're just losing even more motivation. And so it does become more of a won't once they've experienced so many negative experiences like this in their life. Why should they try? They know that no matter what they do, it's not going to be good enough, and they're not going to see the effort, and there's going to be some problem with it, and it can get daunting for a lot of these kids. So when we perceive it as a won't, that is a very different place than perceiving it as a can't. When we perceive it as a can't, there's a world of possibilities because we ask different questions. We ask questions like, what would be a way that I could help this child to learn these skills? What are the skills that they would need to be able to do this thing? And you ask different questions. How can I compassionately and empathetically serve this human being to help them build the skills? How can I build a relationship with them where they feel safe enough to take the risk to build these skills? Because a lot of these kids, especially by the time they're teenagers, they don't want help. They don't want you bugging them. They don't want another tutor. They don't want to look different from the other kids. They don't want another person trying to tell them how bad they are, even though they're not bad. That message gets to them. They don't want someone else telling them how unmotivated they are. And so it's when you do find somebody that can really help them, it's hard you have to have the relationship to be able to get them to take the risks, to take the action to build the skills. Anyhow, I just wanted to touch on that. To recap here, what's up, everybody? I don't even know if I introduced myself because my brain's a bit foggy today. I've been doing a lot with my executive function, but my name is Seth Perler, executive function coach, speaker. Wear a lot of hats in the executive function, neurodiversity, ADHD, 2E worlds. I have a site called SethPerler.com where you can get freebies. If you like what I'm talking about here, share a comment below. I'm interested in what you think about the can't and the won't. What areas in your life do you have examples you can share with us where you can't do something and people try to tell you to or think that it's a won't? Have you experienced that? I'm sure we all have. And any other insights that you can share with us, and like this and give it a thumbs up and subscribe and all the stuff. But to recap, we have this can't and the won't. I perceive this as the number one biggest misunderstanding, that if I could fix that one thing in the world, that would create so much positivity for these kids, because when we misunderstand, we use the wrong interventions. And when we can understand something properly, we can use better interventions that are more compassionate, understanding, and really help the person rather than what we often do, which often just keeps them stuck. So that's all I got for you. I want to wish you peace in your heart. I want to wish you joy. And most of all, I want to wish you a deep sense of connection with the people you care about, particularly the kids in your life. Have a fantastic day.